Welcome to our Mock Interview Pro series, designed to help you gear up for your next big opportunity. Today, we're focusing on the role of an environmental health officer. This critical position involves ensuring the safety and well-being of our communities by managing environmental health standards. Let's dive right into it with our first question. Can you share an experience where you had to quickly adapt to a major change in environmental health regulations or guidelines? Interviewers ask this to see how well you handle changes and adapt to evolving standards in your field. Here are some pointers to help you structure your response effectively. Describe a specific regulation or guideline change you encountered. Explain your role and the effect the change had on your work. Detail the steps you took to adapt and adjust to the change. Highlight the results and any lessons learned from the experience. Let's look at an example answer for better clarity.
In my previous role, we faced a new waste disposal regulation that required immediate compliance. I led a team to review our practices, updated the protocols, and conducted staff training on the new guidelines. This allowed us to not only meet the deadline, but also enhance our waste management processes.
By the way, we're only covering a handful of questions in this video, but I've prepared a free PDF with all 30 top interview questions for Environmental Health Officer. It also includes example answers and tips to help you prepare with confidence. The download link is just below. Could you provide an example of a conflict you faced with a colleague or stakeholder regarding an environmental health issue and how you resolved it? This question aims to evaluate your conflict resolution skills and your ability to maintain professional relationships. Here are some tips to effectively answer this question. Identify a specific conflict related to an environmental health issue. Outline the different perspectives involved. Explain the steps you took to address and resolve the conflict. Discuss the outcome and what you learned from the situation. Here's an example of how you might frame your response.
During a project on air quality, a colleague disagreed with my assessment of pollutant levels. I set up a meeting where we discussed our data and perspectives. By analyzing our findings together, we discovered a calculation error on my part. We corrected the report, which improved team trust and collaboration.
Tell us about a time you had to explain complex environmental health concepts to a non-specialist audience. How did you ensure they understood? This question assesses your communication skills and your ability to convey technical information in an accessible way. Here's how you can approach this question. Select a specific situation from your experience. Clearly and simply outline the complex concept. Use analogies or real-life examples to make the concept relatable. Encourage questions to ensure understanding. Summarize key points to reinforce the audience's learning. Let's see how this can be effectively communicated with an example.
In a community workshop, I explained the concept of air quality indices by comparing it to weather forecasts. Just as we check the weather for rain, we use air quality indices to understand pollution levels. I encouraged questions to ensure everyone grasped the health impacts of pollutants, especially on children and the elderly.
Imagine you're called to a site where a chemical spill has occurred. How would you assess and manage the situation? This scenario evaluates your emergency response capabilities and decision-making skills in critical situations. Here's a structured way to respond to this scenario. Prioritize your safety and the safety of others before anything else. Identify the chemical involved and use material safety data sheets, MSDS, for guidance. Assess the spill's extent and its impact on the environment and public health. Implement containment measures to prevent the spill from spreading. Notify emergency services and your supervisor promptly. Now, consider this example to see these steps in action.
Upon arriving at the spill, I'd wear appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, to keep myself safe. I'd carefully approach the site, identify the chemical using its label and the MSDS, and assess the spill's size. My next step would be to contain it with barriers, and I'd report the situation to ensure professionals handle the cleanup safely.
A new industrial plant is being built in your area. How would you evaluate and mitigate potential public health risks associated with its operation? This question explores your skills in risk assessment and your ability to propose effective mitigation strategies. Here's how you can effectively answer this question. Identify potential hazards related to emissions and waste. Engage with stakeholders, including the community and industry leaders. Conduct a risk assessment to evaluate exposure levels. Propose mitigation strategies, such as stricter regulations or increased monitoring. Implement an ongoing monitoring program to assess long-term impacts. Here's an example of how to approach this situation.
I would start by assessing potential hazards like air and water pollution from the plant. Engaging with community members and local health officials would help gather their concerns. A thorough risk assessment would evaluate potential exposure to harmful substances. Based on this, I'd suggest mitigation strategies such as regular emissions monitoring and stricter compliance measures while ensuring an ongoing evaluation of health impacts.
Before we wrap up, remember you can get all 30 questions, example answers, and step-by-step tips in a handy PDF, totally free. Just grab it below.